We are back. It's our final segment this morning with attorney Ron Tietz. Really appreciate you coming on this morning with us, Ron. It's an interesting subject, and I think the state's going to continue to change, and as the whole country appears to be. We've got another phone call coming up next, and it's Ron. Ron, good morning. Hi, Ron.
Yeah.
Hey, go ahead.
The reason they don't legalize marijuana, it's easy to see. The drug industry doesn't want it legalized. They lobbyists, they're getting money out of it under the table, and police are getting the money from arresting these people, and the judges are getting the money from arresting these people. If they really wanted to do what the public wanted, and when children need this stuff, I don't smoke it, never have, never will if I can help it, but I better, if it would help pain, maybe so. But the point being is we've got worse drugs out there that people are taking. And to legalize marijuana, they should put it on the ballot and allow the people to vote for it.
Look, I'm with you, Ron, 100%. Now, I will say this. I don't know, Kevin, again, don't want to get too far away from the legal aspect, but with his argument about pharmaceuticals, I mean, I think we've mentioned now, Tennessee's one of only 14 remaining states in this entire country that have not legalized some form of marijuana. And so if the pharmaceuticals were really, look, if I'm a pharmaceutical, or if I'm one of the major tobacco companies, I'm patenting things, and I'm getting ready for when this is finally legalized nationally, and I'm going to start packaging, just like cigarettes, marijuana cigarettes, and I'm ready to make $1 bazillion, But clearly, pharmaceuticals have had no hand in this nationally because it's passed in more states than not.
Right, and the gentleman brings up a good point about putting the initiative on the ballot, but unfortunately in Tennessee we're not a ballot initiative state.
Right.
And some of the states that have seen marijuana legalized, they are states that allow ballot initiatives that they can do exactly as he mentions, where they can put the issue on the ballot for the voters to vote on. But Tennessee is not that type of state. The only way that this gets legalized in Tennessee is if the elected officials who are in Nashville decide to legalize it. So it's something that the onus needs to be put on elected lawmakers that this is something that the people of Tennessee want, at least for the medical purposes. And Nick, you brought up a good point right before we went to the break before about marijuana already being there and people already using it. And I would absolutely agree to that. But I would also state that there are many Tennesseans who are taking the risk of illegally acquiring this drug for their own medical purposes. People that have cancer, people that have epilepsy, people that have different forms of different medical reasons that cause them seizures, or have chronic pain or Crohn's disease or whatever it may be. There are people that are unneedingly putting themselves at risk for criminal prosecution on a regular basis in this state because the drug is adequately used for pain management, but it's illegal for them to acquire it. So yes, there are the recreational users that are out there, but there are also people that are hurting, that are still putting themselves at risk for criminal prosecution, that are using this drug to manage their pain. And that's that's unnecessary as well. In my opinion, that these people are having to put themselves at risk for getting something that does help them medically.
It's a good point. There's a large number of people like that. It's interesting, Kevin. I think the nearest point a Tennessean can go to legally buy marijuana is in southern Illinois. It's about a 3-hour drive from here. I forget the name of the town and the dispensary there, but it's a store there. I've seen it online, and it's just across the border, about a 3-hour drive. And I have no doubt that there are Tennesseans now at least going there knowing then that they're getting a clean product as opposed to buying something from a dealer on the street, who are buying it and bringing it back. Have you encountered or heard of anyone who's done that, who has then been nailed when they brought it back into Tennessee?
I haven't, but I'm sure that that it's something that probably has happened. I haven't specifically heard of any examples of that. No.
I have heard that if you go to that place, you'll see a ton of Tennessee plates in the parking lot.
Well, I bet, and that's that's just what those license plates should translate to are dollar signs,
right?
Leaving the state of Tennessee that could be spent here, helping out our own economy.
Real quick, as we wrap things up here, it's quite a jump. We talk about Glenn being progressive. The state of Oregon during this last election actually took some steps to actually decriminalize, to a degree, harder drugs. I don't know if you had heard about that. Heroin, methamphetamine, cocaine. This is not to say that if you're caught with it, we're just going to let you go. But instead of incarceration, they're saying you pay a fine and you sign an agreement and you go for rehab. We're not talking about big dealers, but addicts, as opposed to just locking them up. I know Darren Hall is big on rehabilitation. I don't know. Your thoughts on that? That's a big step going from decriminalizing marijuana to these harder drugs. But what do you think?
I think we've seen examples here in Tennessee, especially in Nashville, with the recovery court programs, with our drug courts. We've got some of the best run programs here in Nashville with Judge Robinson's recovery court program, Judge Melissa Blackburn's programs that she's running. And you know, the programs that are being run here absolutely prove that rehabilitation can be successful for many people. And if someone who is struggling with addiction can get into those programs, that it can be a life saved, a person saved, and there should be investments and money and time put into those types of programs for the benefit of all Tennesseans. If there's an opportunity for someone to turn their life around and become a taxpayer as opposed to a tax burden on the state by sitting in jail, I mean, I think that's the direction that we should go and look at it. I don't know that I'm in supportive of completely decriminalizing all forms of drug use. In fact, I'm not in favor of that. But any opportunities that we have to invest in the recovery court programs or drug courts absolutely should be something that we should do. And there's many parts of Tennessee that don't have those programs, unfortunately. That they don't have the investments in rehabilitation and recovery. And when we talked about opioids earlier, unfortunately, the areas in the state that are blemished the greatest by opioid addiction are the rural parts of Tennessee, and those are areas where you see that there are no drug courts at all.
Of course, and if this provides an alternative, listen, there's so much more we can talk about this. Maybe we'll do it again as we see things change in the state. But Kevin, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Absolutely,
it's been
Nick.
a good conversation. It's good talking to you, my friend.
Thank you, Nick.
All right, you take care. I'll be right back. We're going to take a break with a programming note about tomorrow, right after this.